Okay, class. So now we start. Okay, so we were looking at the Python module in the multi-threading tutorial. So just click on open folder, and in the Dropbox you can come to 9th November, which is today, and just select the folder. So we will see two programs that we have already seen yesterday, but just to get a quick recap about how multi-threading actually helps us. So you can see in this particular case what I'm doing, I am having two functions. One will do division and another will do multiplication. हाँ दीदी बस इतना ही कर दीजिए आज, right? So these are normal functions that we call, and in the main you can actually see that I'm calling these two functions using a thread, right? So if you just want, let us do one thing. We will actually call these two functions. Okay, okay, first let us see the threading part of it. So how does actually thread help? So let me just run the code, right? We can see the output is coming here because I have given a sleep timer of 1 second each, right? So what happens for every number in division as well as in multiplication, which is nothing but this list, the loop iterates and just divides the number by 5 and multiplies the number by 5, right? So in the end, you can actually see what happens here is that, and I'm basically calling two threads. So division and multiplication. These are two threads which are running concurrently in the memory, or they are running parallelly in the memory, right? Unlike normal function calls, what happens? So you can see in the output also, you will observe here, we have double double square, and you can see this double is 6.0 is written here. Square is written 150 is here. Fine. So you can see the output basically is a bit weird, right? It is a bit unordered. For example, let me just show you another example here. Ideally, the output should have been like this, right? So let me just comment everything which is in the thread, right? And let me just call these two functions, division and multiplication. So division and multiplication, right? Let us do the execution of this and just see what happens in the normal case, right? You can see this double is going. Why I have written double here? Let me just check the output here. Okay, let me change this output. Dividing by 5, right? So let me just keep this like this. This is okay. Dividing by 5 and multiplying by 5, right? So let me just execute the code once again. Do I have a CLS? Yes, I have. So you can see this entire list, right? So we have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So when you divide by 5, it will be 2, 4, 6, 8, and 10. So you get dividing by 5, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Followed by multiplying by 5 is 50, 100, 150, 250. How much is the time taken? 10 seconds, right? Because we have 5 numbers and there's a sleep of 1 second each. So 5 second delay in multiplication, and there will be 5 second delay in division. Now why does this happen? This happens because we are calling the functions one at a time. So when the division function is called, it will wait for the entire division function to execute before actually going to the multiplication function. See, this is a division function here. We are calling this. So entire division function will take 5 seconds because we have 5 numbers and some time to divide. So total time here, then it returns to the point where it was called, and then the multiplication function is called. Again, the same thing, multiplication basically goes here, performs entire multiplication, sleeps every 1 second for every numbers. So if you have k numbers, it will be having a delay of k seconds plus some computation time, right? So 2k, right? We have 5 numbers here. So you can see we have taking a time of 10.005 seconds because this was a serial execution. We did not implement threads. Now let us do one thing. Let us implement threads here, right? So I will just comment out these two things. Video off here. So I will just comment out these two lines, and the same functions I will implement using a threading library, right? So you can see threading.thread. So now these two functions will get executed parallelly in the memory, right? So as if both of them are running at the same time in the memory. So technically what happens here? Now let us see the executed output of here. So you can see multiplying by 5 is 50, and just after multiplying you are also getting the output of dividing. You see, multiplying has to be done for all the 5 numbers, but just after the first number, you can see the output for division also. This is what happens when you multi-thread, right? You are concurrently executing the codes, or the both functions are running parallel in the memory. So you can thread as many functions as you want, right? We can actually write an addition function that can do addition in the memory, right? So now you can see multiplying by 5, then dividing by 2, and now you can see, as I told you, the processes are so fast executing in the memory that when you divide by 5, you can see before dividing by 5, the multiplication has executed its own result, right? And the dividing by 5, the result has come at this particular point. So this happens when threading, because both the process are running simultaneously in the memory. It is not getting serialized, right? So you just assume like I have two students in the class and I'm asking them, to say 1 to 50, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now when both the people start saying, say 1, 2, 3, and the other is also saying 1, 2, 3, 4, at some point it may happen that the other guy is a bit faster in speaking, so his numbers will come to me first, and then the first guy may actually speak faster, then his numbers may come first. So it will be always a random output. So when I execute it the next time, you will see that dividing by 5, the result is 6. Now you can see dividing by 5, the result basically is coming at this point, and multiplying by 5, the result is coming at this point. So this is a pitfall of threading. So you can actually get faster execution speed. See, straight away it reduced to half. Why half? Because we know multiplication takes 5 seconds, division takes 5 seconds, but when both are executed in the memory, they eventually will take 5 seconds each. So the total times taken is 5 seconds. But you can see how the output is coming. Dividing by 5 is coming here, multiplying by 5 is coming here, right? So in case your program is such that you can execute operations in parallel, you can actually multi-thread them. But in such a case, for example, and this output will change over time. So let me run the code again. You can just see now it is coming. Dividing by 5 is 2, multiplying by 5, dividing by 5. See, in this case it has come perfectly, right? In this case it has come absolutely perfectly. But as I told, in the previous case, if you saw, we were getting a bit weird and a bit weird output, not wrong output, but a bit weird, because dividing by 5. So basically, since both the functions are executing at the same time, and just assume it from a processor level, let's say the division operation takes some milliseconds, let's say it takes 82 milliseconds, right? And let's say the multiplication is taking 75 milliseconds, right, for smaller numbers. So it may happen that the multiplication happens first, right? And after 75 milliseconds, the result of multiplication is displayed. And then the result of division is displayed. So that is why this is happening in this case. Okay, so yesterday we saw that we were having threads. Remember, main thread, thread 1, thread 2, thread 3, thread 4. Now let us see how can we rename threads, right? Because Python will automatically assign thread 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then actually it depends on how many threads are running in the memory. So it is always advisable to have your own thread name so that you exactly know. For example, as I said in the example of Microsoft Word, you can actually have threads which have the names like thread grammar check, thread this, thread that, right? So how do you do that? So you can see in the threading module, first I'm getting the name of the current thread, right? So since in this I am executing from the main, it will have the name main thread, but it will be the parent thread basically. So you can see current thread dot set name. Set name is an inbuilt function, and then you are asking basically what is the thread name that we want to keep, right? So when I run this code, you can see that main thread name is main thread. This is assigned by the Python interpreter by default, right? This is assigned by the Python interpreter as a default name. Now what I'm doing, I'm setting the name as, after customizing the thread name, cs384 underscore thread. Why? Because I specified the name here, set name, right? So class, one more example I wish to actually tell you. So let me just, in the previous case we had done multiplication and this, right? So let us do subtraction, just to get you feel of the idea. Right now I am writing four basic mathematical operations: subtraction and then addition. So addition will be n plus 5, subtraction will be n minus 5. And what we can do, then we have to define two new threads, right? So let me just copy this, T1, T2. What I will do here, I will keep it, sorry, this will be T3, T4. T3, let's say I am calling addition. T4, I am calling subtraction. T1 dot start, T2 dot start, and let me start T3, T4. This is T3 and T4. Right, so now if you see in this case class, right, in this case, just let me clear out. Okay, so in this case you can see every function has a sleep of 1 second, and we have five numbers. So every function will have a delay of 5 seconds. If it were for serial execution, it will take 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5, because we have four functions, 20 seconds plus some milliseconds for computation of these operations. Now since we are doing threading here, T1, T2, T3, T4, and I'm starting all the threads together, right? This will actually complete in something 5.00 seconds. But again, as I said, there will be some weird output. See, addition by 5, and the display is here actually for addition. But you can see the total time taken is 5.01 seconds. So 5 seconds is actually the delay, and 0.01 is the time taken by the program to basically operate on these five numbers, doing all the four operations. So I hope you get a feel, right, how the parallelization and how the threadings actually help us, right? If you just want to check here, let me just do, I hope it's clear to you now, right? And let me just clear out the threading part. It will take 20 seconds to execute, but the output will be clear. See, dividing by 5, dividing by 5, dividing by 5. So 1 second delay is there, and in the 1 second delay, then multiplying is there, then addition is there, subtraction is there, right? So this is basically to get you the feel about multi-threading, what happens, right? Okay, now as I said, every process has a process ID, right? In the previous case we saw how we were renaming process. So you can see in this particular case, like for example, GitHub desktop. Okay, let me just show you this BSR screen recorder, the software which I use to record videos, is having a process ID 6124, right? So every process has a process ID. For example, GitHub has two process running, having the process ID 12576 and 10480. Similarly, every thread has an identifier. So let me first run this code. Let me clear the output, run the code. Right, so you can see this child thread identification number is 18881114440 right? So let me show you what happens here. In this case, what I'm doing, I'm creating a thread and calling the function m, right? This function name is just m, right? And what is the function doing? It is printing child thread and providing me with an inbuilt function, right? So this is a not a function, but this is a property, right? Function is when you have a round parenthesis, right? But this is just a property, indent. Ident basically is standing for identifier. So I am saying whatever is the current thread, please give me an identifier for it. So you can access a thread using the thread name, or you can access a thread using thread identifier, right? So it depends on you. Similarly, you can see in the main, I am having identifier for the main thread and identifier for child thread. So you can see in this case, what is the output here? So child thread identifier is 1888. So basically you can see that threading induces a sub process. Why I'm saying sub process? Because it depends on the main program. So that sub process is also having a process ID, right? And then main child thread is 14440. Fine. Let me, okay, the program has actually exited, or we can actually see this PID in the task manager also. Okay, let me just show you if it's possible, right? Import time, let me do. This is the child thread and t1 dot start, then time dot sleep. Let us sleep for 15 seconds. Let me just try, right? I'm just giving it a try. See, the main thread basically, right? Main thread is 9436. So let us try to search this in the task manager. 94, it should have come here, 9436. Acha, this exited actually. Let me just try again. 5176. 5176. Okay, some issues here. I will have to check this out. Actually, what is happening here is there will be a process with the name Python here, right? Because see what we are doing, we are executing the Python executable through VS Code, right? So you can only see the Python executed here, Python execution here. See, Python is being executed, and inside Python we are executing these child processes. So we actually need some advanced task manager in order to see this, right? Resource values, disk memory. Yeah, Windows does not have this. There are many third-party tools which we can use to see the child processes also, right? So this is just for the identifier purposes. Okay, now this is another program. Let me just check this Python program related to the concept of threading. It is similar only, right? Let me just see. I have two functions here. I have task one. Okay, class, let us take a break for 5 minutes, right? It's already 12:22. So we will be back at 12:27. Hi class, welcome back. Again, so this was a very simple example actually. We have already seen. Right. This is just to get the feel which we have seen in the multiplication division program. So just the same thing. We have two functions here, task one and task two. So what is happening here in this case is, since I'm calling two threads, you can actually see when I'm calling task one and task two, inside task one, there is a function which is having a sleep of 20 seconds. So under normal circumstances, this program should have taken 20 seconds before actually we could have executed the task 2 function. But since we are using threading, you can actually see that when I run the code, so task 1 is assigned to thread T1, task 2 assigned to thread T2, and both are executing. You see there is no exit clause here. It will come after 20 seconds. But one important thing here is that ID of the process running task 1 is 12072 and ID of the process running task 2 is 12072. Now why this both numbers are same? Because see both of them were called from the main function itself. So this is how basically, if you remember void main in C, in case you want to define void main in Python explicitly, you basically have to use this particular clause, right? But we have smaller code, so we avoid this kind of declaration just to make the program more cleaner. So right, if name is equal to main, that means basically this is itself the main function. So you can see ID of the process running the main program is 12072 because it's just a python.exe, the main program which is executing. So it will give a process ID. And the main is calling the thread. You can see I am in the main and the main is calling the thread. So the identifier, right? So the identifier which is calling both the threads for task T1 and T2 will remain the same, right? So it's just like a parent process calling two child processes, T1 and T2. right? Since the same parent is calling both the child process, the number of the identifier remains the same, right? The identifier remains the same. Now we come across something which is very important and that needs to be taken care while you do multi-threading, right? Multi-threading basically, which is known as the race condition. Now what happens when you do have a race condition, right? So as a simple example, let me just start paint today, right? So now let us say an example. This is a board here, right? Sorry, my board is not working today for some reason unknown to me. I will try to fix this. So I'm using Microsoft Paint here, right? So let's say I have a number here 5, right? I have a number 5 here. So I'm a single person here, right? Whose job is to come here and whatever value is here, increment this by 1, right? So this guy comes here, goes here, erases 5, right? And then writes 6 here, right? So similarly, this guy can just see then 6, then write 7, then see 7, then write it, and it can go up to, let's say, 100 if we want, right? We are doing it like 95 times. So this is like an example of serial execution, right? So this is box 1. So let me draw another box here, right? So let us say we are keeping another number here, 7, and this is person 2, right? So person 2 also does the same thing. So if you can see, these are independent boxes, right? These are independent boxes, and both the guys basically just do an increment operator, something like if you know C, then you do 6 plus plus and then I plus plus here, 7 plus plus. So if both of them repeat the same operation, let's say 30 times, this value will become eventually 36, and this value will become eventually 37. So all good, all well here, right? Now let us take a different case. Now I have exactly one box, right? And then I have two persons here. I have this person here, and let me change the pen color, and I have this person here. Now I'm telling both of them to write in the same box, right? You also write here, and you also write here. Let's say the number initially was 6. Okay, let us take the number as 7. Right. So just imagine you and your friend are given one piece of slate, right? The childhood slates we were using to learn ABCD. And on the slate, you are saying, okay, whatever number is on the top of slate, you just increment it by 1, right? So now what happens in this case, what is the race condition is that, so it may happen that this guy, let's say, gets the first chance. First chance means both are executing parallelly in the memory. So he may get, or this guy may get. So this guy sees that this number is 7 and just erases it and keeps it to 8, right? Let us assume totally we will be running the loop 10 times. So in 10 times, it may happen that this guy may run it 6 times, this may run it 4 times, or this may run 5 times, this guy may run 5 times. The moment this guy now comes here, it sees that, okay, the box has 8, I will cross this and make it 9, right? Everything so far, so good. Now, as I told you, since the processes are running extremely fast in the memory, right? We have 2.5 gigahertz processors, right? 3 gigahertz processor. So that means 3 gigahertz means 3 into 10 raised to 9 clock cycles per second. 3 into 10 raised to 9 clock cycles per second. So such operations usually take one clock cycle. So just imagine we can have so many clock cycles, right? So we can have so many operations in a single clock cycle, in a single second actually. So now just imagine a case. Let me just erase this out for you. Let us say the number is 8 here, right? And now assume that both these persons at the same time access this box, right? So both these persons access this box. So what does P1 see? P1 sees that the number was 8. So what does P1 do? Erases this thing and makes this 9. Now if you remember, what did P2 see? P2 also saw 8 only on the box, right? So what P2 will do, irrespective of this number, because P2 remembered that I saw 8, so it will rewrite a 9 here. Now you see what is happening here. Technically, if it would have been a serial execution, upon accessing the box twice, this would have been 9, and then P2 should have made 9 as 10, or vice versa. P2 would have accessed first, then would have made 9, and then P1 would have accessed, making it 10. But since we are running threads and we are having concurrent execution or parallel execution, it may happen in a particular case that both these persons access the box at the same time, read the value on top as 8, and both of them wrote 9 on the box. So even though we executed it two times, the value increment happened only once. So it is 9. So I hope I can make some sense, okay, why the race condition will occur, right? So as the number of persons increase, there will be more number of collisions, right? So it's like, just assume you have a bucket and there is a small game of sports in which you are asked to put a ball inside that small bucket, right? And just assume that there is a limitation that at a time only one ball can enter that bucket. And there are a set of children who are being given one ball each. So let's say there are 10 students, 10 children. All of them run together, and let's say there are 3 children who reach the bucket at the same time. Now it will be a race condition because only one can insert, and all of them are saying, okay, I came first, I came first, I came first. So how do you resolve it, right? So this was just a very crude example. So now we will see what happens here. So in this case, see what I'm doing, I'm declaring a global variable x, right? X is 0 here, right? And I'm defining an increment here, right? And in the increment function, I'm referring this to as global x. Why global x? So that I can basically make changes to this variable. Because as we know, sorry, the scope of the function is limited only to here, right? So it will not edit this value. But now since we have explicitly said that global of x, right, this function will surely change this particular variable. So you can see what is the increment function doing here. It is accessing this variable x, which is x equal to 0, and incrementing the value of x by 1, right? So done. And now what I'm doing here, I'm defining a thread task here. So you can see this can be any variable also, right? So what I'm doing here, I am calling it 1 lakh times, or one, oh, the unit tens, hundred, thousand, 10,000. Yeah, I am calling this function 1 lakh times, right? I am calling the increment function. So I am defining a function from which I am calling the increment function 1 lakh times. So what will happen? The value of x, which was initially 0, will be incremented 1 lakh times. That is by unit of 1. So the final value should be 1 lakh in this case, right? And now see what I'm doing. I'm defining the main task here. Okay. In the function main, what I'm doing, I am having a for loop with a range of 10, right? So what will happen? This for loop will execute 10 times, and 10 times I am calling the function main task, right? So let us right click here and go to definition. Oh, go to definition. So what is the main task doing? Main task is creating two threads here, right? Main task is creating two threads here, and then I am starting both the threads. See, I am not joining both the threads, right? I am not joining both the threads. I am just starting two threads, right? And what does these threads basically do, right? I am calling the same function. You can see both the threads T1 and T2 are calling the same function, thread underscore task, thread underscore task, right? Both of them are calling the same function. And what does thread task do? Thread task basically runs a for loop for 1 lakh times and increments the value. Now if you see, just visualize using this example, I have the same box. I have, in this case, box basically is nothing but the variable x. I am having a variable x which is basically incremented by two threads, T1 and T2. And how many times they are incremented? They are incremented 1 lakh times. So if it would have been a serial execution, this thread should have made the value 1 lakh, and after incrementing again 1 lakh times, the value should have come as 2 lakh, right? And how many times we are executing this? We are executing this 10 times. Since we are executing this 10 times, it will be 10 times the value. The final value should be 20 lakh. But now see what happens here. I am running the code. You can see in the iteration 0, the value of x was only 41284. Now you will say, why did this happen? Because in iteration 0, we are running two threads, right? One thread is running 1 lakh times, another thread is also running 1 lakh times. So the output should have been 2 lakh. Our output should have been 2 lakhs, but it came only 41,284. This happened because of this phenomena. Like in a particular case, it may have happened that out of 1 lakh execution, in some particular case, both of them read 8. And since both of them read 8, both of them wrote 9 on the memory, right? Both of them wrote 9 on the memory. So now you can see what should have been the output value should have been 2 lakh in the iteration 1, right? After 2 lakh more increments, so this value should have been 4 lakhs. So now you can calculate. So if I do 2 lakh minus 41,284, that is roughly 1 lakh 58,000. So there were 1 lakh 58,000 such instances where both of them read the same value, right? So in this case, the race conditions basically occurs because either you are not allowed to access the variable or you are writing the same value again and again, right? And it may so happen like this also, right? So I'm telling you why this value is short for the various reasons, right? So let's say this value was 7, right? This is P1. Okay, let us make it thread 1, right? This is thread 1 and thread 2, right? So assume T1 basically read the value 7, right? So in the memory of T1, the value was 7. And in the meantime, T2 read this value, and T2 basically read 7 and made it 8 also, right? T2 basically made this value 8, right? And let's say before T1 actually could come back, T2 again read the value because the process is running very fast and made this value as 9, right? Because both are executing parallel in the memory. One may be a little faster, other may be a very little slower, right? So T2 has made the value 9 already, but what value did T1 read? T1 actually had read 7. So what will T1 do? Erase everything and then write 8 in the memory. Technically should have been 10, but you see the counter has reached only 8. Fine. So now let us see this example. Again, in this case, you can see the final value, right? In the iteration 9, you are just getting this 93,224. This is basically because of the race condition. You can actually just see, let me just join the thread. You can see when I do the join threads, right? So we are waiting for the threads to end, but you can see there is slight improvement. Now at least it is reaching 166, right? 1,77,759. But it is still far away from the actual value of 2 lakh, right? It is still far away from the actual value of 2 lakh. Now how do you check that? So let me do one thing, right? Let me just pass this function. Now I'm calling this thread function twice in a normal fashion without threading basically. Let me just run the code, right? So now you can see in every iteration the value is exactly 2 lakh because there was no collision. When the first function exited, it made the value 1 lakh, and when the second function exited, it made the value 2 lakh, right? So now we will see how can we actually obtain the correct output despite using multi-threading, right? So let me just comment out this. So let me comment these two codes and let me just uncomment the thread version, control /. Fine. Let us see the wrong output once again. Right. So you can see the wrong output is here, 190, 188. So it reached quite close. So there is one system which is known as locking. Right. We all know locks, right? We use lock to close our doors to prevent thieves from coming into our house. Similarly, you can lock a thread, right? So when you can lock a variable which is basically being shared. So now if you see what is sharing of variable, you can see in both the cases, both the threads were accessing the shared value. The same x was being shared by T1, the same x was being shared by T2 also, right? Both the threads were accessing the same variable x. Now, if you could define some mechanism where, for example, when the thread T1 is incrementing the value, T2 should not do anything on that particular value. Either the T2 thread should wait for the T1 to finish or something like that, right? So what is happening? We are having multiple executions, but we are kind of doing some kind of rationing here, right? So for that we are using the locking system, right? So locks, what happens here is you can see the same increment function is there, x plus 1, and then I'm again using the thread task, but you can see I'm passing a variable lock here, right? So what happens here, you can see I'm still calling it 1 lakh times, but now what I'm doing, I'm first acquiring a lock here, lock dot acquire and lock dot release. So lock is defined, so for example lock here, you can see it's a function with capital L, L-O-C-K. So I'm creating a lock using the threading library, right? And along with this, I am actually passing a lock variable. You can see for both the functions, I'm passing the lock variable, right? Now, what does this lock variable actually do? So lock variable, you can see in this particular loop, what will happen? So there is only one lock, right? There is only one lock. So either thread 1 will get the lock or either thread 2 will get the lock, but both will not get at the same time. Of course, there is a different concept in which, the locking also may get unsynchronized, right? Both of them may request for the lock at the same time, but that is okay, beyond the scope of this. But right now we assume that whenever we are executing the locking, it may have k threads, but only one thread out of the k will get a lock at a given time, right? It's just like only one guy can open your door at one time because there is only one keyhole where you can insert the key and open the door. Even if 10 keys are there, there can be only one guy who can open the door given a time. Even if two guys cannot insert the key in the same keyhole. Same is the concept for lock. Now you can see what we are doing. This is the same for loop is there, right? I am again having the same thread. You can see I'm calling the thread task, but I'm passing the argument lock here. I create the lock using threading library and this lock, right? So before increment, what I'm doing, I am acquiring a lock and then releasing the lock after increment. So I acquire a lock. So let's say thread T1 gets the lock. So thread T1 will have exclusive access to this increment function. And while it is having exclusive access, T2 will actually wait for T1 to finish, right? And then you can see lock dot release. So the lock is free. Anybody can take the lock and do the increment. So let us execute the code. See, now you can see iteration 0, 2 lakh, iteration 1, 2 lakh, iteration 2, 2 lakh, 2 lakh, 2 lakh, right? So this is how basically locks work, right? You have to just write a 2-line code. So whatever function, right? In this case, increment function was having a shared variable, right? It was having a shared variable. Now you may ask, in the previous code when we were using this, if you see over this code, division, multiplication and all these code which we were using, now you may ask, why did not we use locks in this particular case? So we didn't use locks in this case because see, all these were happening independently, right? We were not making changes to the actual list. You can see in this case numbers was a list. We did not modify the numbers list anywhere in the code. So we could actually run this code in a threading format without actually using locks, right? Without actually using locks, right? So technically, see what happens. I'm sharing an image with you. Okay, this is with reference to a database, but that increment operation, right? So what happens here is we have thread 1, main thread and thread 2, right? T1 and T2 are basically the threads which are running in parallel, and you are having a main thread that is having a database value 0, right? This value is 0, and both the threads are basically trying to modify the same value, and that is what the race condition actually happens, right? So I hope things are clear. So you can just try to execute this code. You can see I just added lock here. I am passing the variable lock in both the threads. Even if you have k threads, you can pass k this lock for k threads, and then the function in which, right? So for example, this function increment is using a global variable which is incremented. Since it's using a global variable which is shared, we use the lock. If it was using a local variable on which there was no dependence between the first and the second execution, then the locks are not required. You can put locks for safety purposes, but actually not required if you are not using shared memory or shared variables. Right? So guys, if you have any doubts, kindly ask, or for today we can wind up the class, right? So do practice threading, a little tricky, but once you get the hang of it, it's easy to execute things and get it done faster. Fine. So okay, class, we let's disperse. Thank you.